And that so the therapeutic process is just a metaphor. It's just something that keeps the conscious mind busy enough to believe in the fact that they've changed. But when you have someone who is a high hypnotizable, really what you're asking them is to do what psychologists call magical thinking. But they turn their nose up and they go, oh, that's bad, it's unhealthy. Bullshit. It's the fastest way to change. When you have someone who is highly skilled at magical thinking, all you say to them is, fix it. And they'll go, yes, boss, done. Right? Isn't that why everyone obsesses about getting them into the ultimate deep trance? Because intuitively we have this equation that if they're only deep enough in trance, then the suggestion on its own will take, and we don't have to be clever about any processes to lead them to the outcome. And there's a kind of truth to it, I believe. And there is a belief. But it's not the depth of trance that matters, but the intensity of belief. Psychotherapy is a religion. It requires faith for it to work. And in the absence of faith, we have reasoning to develop faith. That's what a psychotherapeutic maneuver is about. It teaches you from experiences, metaphorical experiences, because let's put it this way, if I regress you to some unpleasant event and we go through a whole bunch of processes there, is that event actually occurring again right now? No. There is no dog biting at your ankle. There's no big bad man with a stick, right? It's just you relating to your mind. It's a metaphor, right? And even what we currently know of how memories work, in terms of the neuroscience of it, you remember things. You're taking the constituent portions of a memory and putting them together again. You're reconstructing the memory, which is why memory is so prone to failure, right? So now we take a memory that's prone to failure, you put it through a metaphorical process where the traumatic parts of it start to fail. They start doubting the trauma long enough for them to experience a positive emotion, an empowering idea in relation to that situation. And now they have a counterexample. What is that? That's logic. That's reasoning. Using counterexamples, but it's experiential reasoning rather than intellectual reasoning. Does that make sense? So that's all therapy is. It's keeping the conscious mind busy enough for them to just fix it. Does that kind of make sense, guys? And that's the real reason we do trance training. Because if you hit, the 1 in 10, 1 in 20, 1 in 30, whatever the odds might be, of a high hypnotizable, then trance training brings to the point where you just say, fix it, and they do. And for the others who don't quite get that far, and I personally believe that if you work with someone long enough and smart enough, they will eventually get to that point, right? But it may be like, like taking a couch potato and turning them into an Olympic athlete. It may take a lot of work, and it's not a necessarily efficient way of doing work. So the more efficient way might be is to maximize their short-term response to suggestion, which basically means to minimize their disbelief in the therapeutic process, and then move them through an experiential reasoning process, whether your libation is regression therapy, or mind-bending language therapy, or symbolic hypnotherapy, or guided fantasy, right? Or cognitive behavioral, rational emotive behavioral, whatever your particular church happens to be, right? You guide them through an experience at the end of which they can conclude that they no longer need to have the problem, and therefore, what do? They fix it. Does that make sense, guys?